Beautiful night here in downtown St. Louis. Cool temperatures. It feels like fall. A look at the lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers. It's Corey Hart, Nyjer Morgan, and Ryan Braun, followed by Fielder, McGee, Green, Bettencourt, Lucroy, and Zach Greinke. Chris Carpenter gets the call tonight, Al.
Well, the last two times he's struggled, giving up 6 earned runs in each game. He's on the season. He's given up or received the least amount of run support, and defensively, a lot of errors being committed behind him, including his own 3 throwing errors.
And a look at the defense behind Carpenter this evening. Holiday, Jay, and Berkman in the outfield. Descalso for Cowell, Schumacher, and Pujols on the infield. Carpenter and Molina, the battery tonight. That's presented by Dobbs. Tony La Russa. And the Cardinals still mathematically alive, especially when you take a look at the wild card race.
Wild card race. They're showing Atlanta, San Francisco, and St. Louis are 7.5 games back. But you know, after this, you got the Atlanta Braves coming in for 3, so you can take care of business. Need to win today, though.
Ground ball to short, and Corey Hart is retired. We understand that Atlanta right now in the 4th inning, trailing their ball game. And you know, we talk about it, Al. It's a situation where if you're the Cardinals, you have to think that way. You have to have a reason to come to the ballpark and be excited. And why not say to yourself, hey, we've got a chance to still compete, to still make it into postseason play.
And think about this too. You know, if you win this ball game, you get 8.5 game back, but then Philadelphia goes in to play Milwaukee, and they're going to have to do it against the ace pitchers.
Pulled foul, 0-2.
Philadelphia is playing Atlanta at home, and as you mentioned, they're leading 1-0 in the 4th inning.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Morgan. Check swing, taken for a ball outside. 72 degrees, our game time temperature here in St. Louis. Morgan homered in game 1 of this series and fouls it back. They say he's just flat out crazy. That's what you were telling me, Al. Flat out crazy.
So
you can relate.
Told from our Fox counterparts on the television side from Milwaukee.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Popped up left side. Foul territory. Tough play. The catch is made by Descalso. Daniel, one of those guys that has played so well this year, especially with the glove, that you have to give him strong consideration of what you might do at second base next year, being an everyday player.
Well, that's it. That's his natural position, but he's filled in very well at third base when Freese needed time off, and he's played shortstop. He's convinced Tony and the staff that yes, he can play shortstop. Ryan Braun has slipped to second place, 1 point behind Reyes in the batting race.
Could win a batting title, might be your MVP of the year as well. He is homered in this series. 27 on the year. He's driven in 95.
Trying to become only the second 30-30 man in their franchise history.
They point back to 2009 and why he may win the batting championship. He needed a tremendous surge over the final 2.5 weeks to finish as the leader in hits, and he did that with 203. Hit .398 over his final 19 games, and they say he is motivated to win this batting championship. 2 balls and 1 strike, 2 outs and nobody on.
Kind of compare his numbers with Prince Fielder, his teammate, and I think his are a little bit more superior.
The 2-1 pitch. Ground ball to short. Good start here for Carpenter. For Cowell across the diamond. Cardinals coming up in their half of the first. Third base tonight. Good start for Chris Carpenter. 1-2-3 inning. Bottom half of the first for Cowell, Jay, and Pujols, followed by Holiday, Berkman, and Schumacher. Molina, Descalso, and Carp. Zach Greinke, 14-5.
14-5, better at home. He's 10-0. Recent success. He's 2-0 against the Cardinals this season. Both of those were games in Milwaukee. And he throws an awful lot of fastballs. He's a 4-pitch pitcher, but a lot of times he'll get that slider to chase. Likes to throw a lot of strikes with his curveball.
And there's a fastball and a strike to Rafael Furcal, the switch hitter with the Cardinals, and overall batting .214.
Former Cy Young Award winner, and 92 is get your attention, but you would think maybe he'd throw a little bit harder. After winning that Cy Young, he had quite a few strikeouts that year.
I mentioned before he did it on a poor team in Kansas City that year. Did not get a lot of run support, and really the win totals, when you looked at that season of 16, doesn't really stand out. But then as you broke down his games and really looked at the numbers, it was quite amazing to do what he did.
Virtually no run support, and that's something that's changed a little bit for him here in Milwaukee. Much better hitting team, much better team all around.
The next two for Kyle. Little chopper to Betancourt. 1 away. Let's meet the defense of Milwaukee tonight behind Zach Greinke, Braun, Morgan, and Hart in the outfield. McGee, Betancourt, Green, and Fielder along the infield. And our battery tonight, Greinke and Lucroy. That's brought to you by Dobbs. Ron Reineke, he said last week was an eye-opener for his club when the Cardinals came in, put up 18 runs, and swept Milwaukee. He said in all reality before the game tonight, it probably was a good thing to get your attention. And then they go down to Houston and sweep them.
And they righted the ship. The one thing, they have not been hitting very much as a team, but they've been getting that great starting pitching to keep them in games.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to John Jay, who homered last night, fouled straight back. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, nobody on. As you mentioned last night, you look up and it always looks a little bit better to be above 300, and he's at 304. University of Miami product. Hits it the other way, off the glove of McGee, and a base hit for John Jay.
Luck is part of success. How about the homestand he's having? He's now 9 for 15. 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 6-game hitting streak, batting .500 during that time. There's that curveball, and off the glove of McGee. Betancourt was going to back up the play, but then McGee deflected it away from him, guaranteeing the infield single.
Fox Mo brought to you by Plaza Tire Service.
Jay leads the ball club in those infield hits.
Albert's at 293. Good pick by the catcher Lucroy. Ball 1. Not many times will the Cardinals run, especially when Pujols is up, but they did do it last night. He's 1 for 7 in this series.
Albert hit into a double play yesterday, but it was 28 games in between his 25th and 26th double play hit into.
Pujols out to left, backing up Braun in front of the track to make the catch. Jay retreats to first. 2 outs. University of Miami product John Jay at first base, and Ryan Braun, who played at Miami, shortstop at that time, is out left. Non-drafted out of high school, Ryan Braun.
You would have to think that somebody thought he was a tough sign. How could he not get drafted playing from California?
And also going to a very good baseball school in Miami.
Correct. Makes you think that they made it well known, but still somebody you think would draft him in a later round.
1-0 pitch to Holiday. Foul.
Can't say he wasn't seen playing in California.
Yeah.
Holiday's had some success against Greinke, 4 for 9 with a pair of home runs.
You think about how the business of baseball has changed, Al, where teams now are willing to spend more money on the draft picks, take that chance in a later round on signability of a player. Up the middle, a rocket into center field. Base hit for Holiday. You know, you look at Walt Jocketty, he was tremendous when he was in St. Louis at finding those players in the final year of a deal that did not look like they'd re-sign with their club. McGuire, Edmonds, Rowland, just to name a few. But that really isn't how it's done now. You have to be able to draft and sign those players and develop them through your system.
Once again, you see Plaza Tire service, the Exmo Cam ball pretty much in the middle of the plate, maybe a little bit away, but taken right back up the middle. And it really is interesting. Remember when Tony first came here, they used the minor league system to trade for veteran players. And you can only do that so long before you deplete your minor league system. And now they really covet those top draft picks, and you try to build from within.
Off the end of the bat, Greinke makes the play. And the Cardinals strand 2 as Berkman grounds out. No score after 1. And you'll find the seats you want, the freedom to choose where you'd like to sit. StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Cardinals.
Dan, something was pointed out to me, my good friend Bob Taylor. And Bob and his lovely wife Wanda were in town last week. But Carpenter's making his 30th start. In the first inning, all year he's only allowed 1 run. But the second inning, he's allowed the most runs. He's allowed 21 runs. Now, you would think that would be opposite. You know, a guy would maybe be a little slow getting out of the gate, but then he'd find himself in the second. He gets off to a great start in the first, but then whatever happens in the second inning, he's allowed 21 runs.
Make you think maybe it's the part of the order that's getting him. 1, 2, 3 first inning, then you're facing 4, 5, and 6.
Really, the 1, 2, 3, you know, you've got some outstanding hitters. A lot of people put the best hitter in the third hole. You know, Ryan Braun, the cleanup hitters, batting .292. A lot of times you have those 4, 5, and 6 are not high average hitters. They can do a lot of damage, but they have holes. You can pitch to them.
3-1 the count.
I always talk about a starter. You know, if you're going to get to him, you get to him early, but a lot of times you think about that in the first.
Lined into left center field, base hit for Fielder. Let's hope that trend does not continue here tonight, but it's a base hit, second inning to lead it off for Fielder.
Prince trying to add to his average. He's another in contention for the MVP, and Plaza Tire service gives you a good look at that powerful swing. Casey McGee is he's batting .237.
And a strike at the knees. Article written by Bob Nightingale today about free agency period that will begin right after the World Series for Albert Pujols, and very well done. Always by Bob, one of the best writers in baseball.
Didn't hear anything new, but really put a whole summation of what's happened with the very little contract negotiations as both sides decided to table it once an agreement could not be reached in spring training.
And I bring it up because one guy that has been highly complimentary of Pujols over the years is standing at first with him, and that's Prince Fielder.
Yeah, he had some nice comments right there.
We all could have down years. We'd be headed to the Hall of Fame like Albert.
Well, there's a lot of money standing at first base. Garth Orge, I'm not including you. Yeah, back out of the picture. There we go. That's Dane Orge's brother, by the way, the first base coach.
On the outside corner, a strikeout for Carpenter.
A breaking ball. And right down on the outside corner, fooling McGee.
Taylor Green, the hitter for Milwaukee. And he looks at a strike. Seen Green at second base, also third base. We're told that the prospects just keep on coming for Milwaukee, and this is one that they like.
You see his numbers. He got his first major league hit against the Cardinals. His first 3 major league at bats, he was 3 for 3. And they said coming in, 7 times out of 8, he hit the ball in the nose.
This is in 1-2.
He's an all-star this year in the International League, and you go back and you look at A-ball, Double-A, it's always been an all-star. Pretty good pedigree and very good numbers in the minor leagues.
Big gap in right center. Fielder the runner at first. And it's a double play ball for Cowell. Takes it himself, double play. Midway through 2, and there's no score. 2.25 ERA. 28 innings, and getting, as you talked about, Al, great run support, over 5 runs a game.
The 2 times this season were home games where he's 10-0 in Milwaukee. A lot of run support, good pitching. His Cy Young year, 09, what was he? 16-8. But as you said, playing on a very poor ball club and no run support.
Talked about how Schumacher has decent numbers, not a huge amount of at-bats against Zach Greinke, but good numbers. Stays away from a pitch that's a bit high. 2 balls, no strikes. Top of the 6th, and the Phillies lead Atlanta 1-0. 5 for 13 for Schumacher. At the knees and a strike.
Now Greinke's thrown a few more changeups than what you expect, but changeups have been a very good pitch against the Brewers hitters.
Yovani Gallardo, by the way, 1-7 against the Cardinals in his major league career, which began in 2007. We saw him last night. And only 2 pitchers have lost more games to the Cardinals than Gallardo over that span. Bronson Arroyo and Wandy Rodriguez. Rang also has 7. That's against a very good pitcher, Gallardo.
And he's only 25 also.
A 3-2 pitch. Shoots it, fouled out of play. Jim Hayes is coming up in the 3rd inning, and he's going to tell us about Tony. Don't give it away, Al, if you know. And a little visit with a special friend last night. That's coming up in the 3rd. Foul tip.
Can't wait.
Hit to short, Betancourt. Backhands, fires to first, and the stretch by Fielder to get him by about a half step.
So Tony doesn't want to give up his evil ways. That a hit?
That's a hit.
He's already pacing. What's his surprise for tonight?
I think everything's back to normal. Tony TV will be from a podium tonight. Jim will be a part of that. You don't want to miss it.
Never do.
Here's Yadier Molina with one out.
Of course, Dan, when it was announced that Tony wouldn't be doing Tony TV, his post-game wrap-up from the podium, as usual, we immediately looked at Jim Hayes and said, "What did you do?"
And then we looked at each other and said, "What did we do?" Here's the 0-1 pitch to Molina. It has come down to pitching in many ways for Milwaukee this year. They've used the fewest starting pitchers, 6 in the major leagues. Just 6.
That's a big key, isn't it? Staying healthy. Of course, you know, Greinke missed nearly the first month with broken rib that he suffered during spring training in a little pickup basketball game. What, was he playing with you?
Those days are over for me. Al. I'm just a dad at home all the time watching SpongeBob and Disney.
But I mean, the reputation I got from you with some of those pickup games is watch Dan's elbows.
And then I played with Jim Hayes in Colorado and Rick Ankiel.
Rick Ankiel.
Talk about being uncomfortable.
And then Mo showed up.
Mo came over for a workout, saw us playing with his prize center fielder. Here's a 3-2 pitch to Molina. Strikeout. First of the night for Zach Greinke. Just to take the point a little bit further, marks the first time in 29 years, only the 5th time in 43 seasons of franchise history, the Brewers have 5 10-game winners too. Chris Narveson, who was picked up in the Larry Walker deal back in 2004, is now a 10-game winner. The lefty. Grounder hit to second. And we move to the third. Jim Hayes coming up. What happened with Tony last night? Top of the third. Chris Carpenter. First pitch is popped up. Betancourt. Over to Scalzo. He's got just enough room to make the catch. All right, Jim, take it away.
Tony La Russa left last night's game a little early. Didn't do the full media session at the podium because he had to get over to the Fox to see his friend Carlos Santana and the group Santana play. Tony told me he got there, got the VIP pass, side of the stage, looks out, gets waved on. He was playing, Tony La Russa was playing maracas on stage.
I remember one night going to see the Boss, Springsteen, and the entire crowd was held up for about an hour until he got through. Tony and the Boss got through meeting.
And you're blaming that on
yes,
Tony?
I'm blaming on Tony.
But Tony says that particular night it was not his fault.
That night.
That night. That Springsteen was delayed for whatever reason, but not because of Tony.
Yeah, Mike was in the audience, our esteemed producer, and he was standing on the floor. He'd been there about 6 or 7 hours, and then he had to wait another hour waiting for Tony in his meeting.
Now, after last night's concert, he had dinner with some of the members of the band, including Carlos Santana, and Tony told me that Carlos gave him a necklace to help his karma. Tony told me he was going to wear the necklace tonight. Can't tell if he's got it on, but he just might.
Well, I think he does. He usually has that metal chain, whatever that may be, and looks like he's got something else on that normally we don't see. Here's another pop-up. This time, Pujols, 2 outs.
Yep, I think he, tough to tell. But by his excitement of getting this necklace from Carlos Santana, I'm going to say it's on.
This is why we have this third inning segment, to give that hard-hitting news edge to Cardinals baseball. So great job.
I got another hard-hitting item.
Well, go ahead.
You mentioned SpongeBob and your kids.
Carpenter.
We'll get to that next half inning.
Right? Is it with Carpenter too? 6 pitches that inning for Carp. On cue, Jim. Chris Carpenter leads it off. What do you have with he and SpongeBob?
Well, you love the SpongeBob. I know you also love the Cardinals. Combination of two. There's a new video game out by Nicktoons. Some of the cartoons from Nickelodeon or Nick Jr. And in the video game, Chris Carpenter pitches to SpongeBob. I know this because I've got it right there on my phone.
Go ahead, Al.
That's my response.
Carpenter on the first pitch, a high fly ball into right, backing up. Corey Hart makes the catch.
I'm going to get this video game for Tyler. I don't care what you guys say.
I'll get it for Westland.
Cardinals, Fox Sports, and State of Missouri are teaming up to help you stop smoking. For more information, call the quit line at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Rafael Furcal digs in with 1 out. He grounded out short. First time up and is 0 for 1 tonight. Jim, you're in that clubhouse all the time, and they put Rafael right next to Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. And Tony was saying the other day, just right away, Furcal fit right in. He's been a good influence in some of the younger players. And the Cardinals have been very public about it and haven't been shy about saying they want to see him back.
Some guys come to a new ball club and it takes them a week, a couple of weeks to fit in or feel comfortable. For Cal, looked like he had been here all season right away. And you mentioned what a plus he's been defensively. The Cardinals believe he can probably still hit. That still remains to be seen. Coming back from some injuries which got him off to a slow start. But the question is price tag.
$12 million option. He could tear that up and see if he would like to come back a couple of years and redo the contract. But clearly he has been an upgrade defensively and somebody that if you are a pitch to contact staff, and we hear that all the time with Dave Duncan, you've got to have guys that can pick it, and this guy can do that.
When you look back on this season, that was one of the flaws with this ball club, was sacrificing defense for a little more offense. Not picking on anybody, but just that was kind of the way the thought process went, and it was fatal.
And the Cardinals along the way were hoping that Tyler Green could be what he was at AAA, which was outstanding.
Back to Greinke, and there's 2 outs. Fox Straps this half inning brought to you by the Missouri Lottery. Here's John Jay, who picked up a single his first time up off the glove of third baseman McGee, and it wound up being an infield hit. I noticed that you and John Jay in your post-game hits arm in arm.
I gave him a little payback last night because on the prior post-game where we had John as the star of the game, he put his arm around me to start. So I figured I'd beat him to the punch last night, and there we were arm in arm. Little uncomfortable.
Very quick with his answers. I think he was uncomfortable, Jim.
Well, he put his arm around me the previous one.
Base hit, John Jay into right.
Doesn't matter. Let him keep hitting.
He's 2 for 2. Extends the inning to Pujols.
Could be the fact that he wants to be the star of the game again. You get a chance to put his arm around you first. But John Jay really is having some fun. It's the 5th consecutive multi-hit game for John Jay. Plaza Tire Service, Exmo Camp. You know, last season, and really this year, a little bit, went in the tank a little bit after the trade that gave him more playing time. Kobe, it was Ludwig 2 years ago, Kobe this year.
Pujols rips it into right center field. That ball will get down. Jay on his way to third. They'll stop him there. A single for Pujols. They'll hold him up at first base. And a chance now for Holiday, who has singled as well.
Plugged the gap out in right center, but Corey Hart got over very quickly. Originally, you thought it maybe was going to go a little deeper. But John Jay, you know, with his good speed, he could get a good read on that ball. He was going to go first to third with ease. But Oquendo couldn't risk it. Corey Hart throwing, if it was maybe Nigel Morgan, you test that arm, but not Corey Hart.
Holiday ripped a single up the middle, first time up, 1 for 1, hitting .318 with runners in scoring position. Lance Berkman on deck, 2 outs, 2 on. Scoreless ball game here in the bottom of the third. The strike on the outside corner.
With Holiday, I wonder how that tweaked back, how long it stayed with him. You know, he played through it. He's a tough guy, didn't complain about it, but to me, it took a little while for him to get that same torque back in his swing.
I don't think there's any doubt, Jim, and think about how hard he swings. So you got a back ailment. That's got to be painful. I watched some video this afternoon of Greinke and Holiday, and Greinke constantly tried to pitch him inside. The home run and the single that he hit off him were pitches that were supposed to be inside that he left in the middle of the plate. They're going away right now.
1-2. Runners at first and third, 2 outs, 1 ball and 2 strikes on Matt Holiday. Jammed him. Betancourt force play at second, and the threat is through. Jim, we'll see you on the post game. Good job. It's scoreless after 3. No score here in the top of the 4th. And Corey Hart leads it off. Hart, Morgan, and Braun for Milwaukee. We thought we had a good pitchers matchup tonight, and so far we have that. We've seen a lot of that from the Brewers tonight. A lot of pop-ups, so.
You know what that means to me? You know, he has 1 strikeout, but all the pops that you mentioned, that's movement.
Yeah. Tough to center the baseball.
You know, it's just like it's moving. They just can't, like you say, center it. Pitch inside like that at 95. So, you know, all season long, Carpenter has had his velocity, and I think better than it's been the last couple of years.
I agree.
The pitch in sets up that slider down and away.
2-2. You know, and Carpenter finally gets a little break in pitching in cool weather. Not to say that that's been an excuse, but his last couple of starts, it has been blistering hot. There's a strikeout of Corey Hart. Follow every Cardinals game through Game Connect on FoxSportsMidwest.com. As you watch the game on television, you can join the conversation about the game on Twitter, track trends and stats. Game Connect brought to you by Jack in the Box, and find it at FoxSportsMidwest.com.
And no longer is he wearing the pants up.
And he'd be the first to tell you, Al, that it's not an excuse in pitching in the heat, but it is more difficult, there's no doubt. As deep as he's going into games. That is a fair ball off the bat of Nigel Morgan. A double with 1 out here in the top of the 4th.
You know, Bob Gibson, everyone used to say about Bob, once it gets, hot, he starts pitching. There's Aaron talking to that young man that reached over the wall, and the umpire said he did not interfere, but right over the bag. Great look there from Plaza Tire Service. But Gibby, always said, I didn't like the hot weather. But he said I could adapt to it better than most.
Well, you've always talked about when you go to the West Coast and you pitch on those nights out west where it gets cool, And it just feels a little bit different and invigorates a pitcher.
No doubt about it. You know, especially when you're pitching in the heat of a St. Louis summer. And you go out to California in the middle of summer and you literally had to wear a jacket at night. You're sitting in the bullpen or even on because you were so accustomed to the 90+ degrees at game time and throughout the game that you'd go out there when, you know, in the mid 60s and you'd be freezing.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Braun on its way.
Unless you were pitching, and it was just a breath of fresh air. Just seemed like you were invigorated, as you said. Ball didn't travel as well, and you know, with at night the coolness, the dampness would come in and kind of knock the balls down.
The 2-0 pitch to Braun. We may have gotten away with it. 2-1.
Right down the middle, and another indication of how hard it is to center it. But don't repeat that same location and expect to get away with it.
Cardinals welcome in Atlanta after the off day tomorrow on Friday night. Weekend series with the Braves. They've tied up their game with the Phillies 1-1. That's in the bottom of the 6th. A 2-1 pitch to Braun. 2-2. Carpenter wants to have a visit here with Molina.
Maybe just get together. It's a very important pitch. 2-2. You want to make sure you're on the same page. Braun is just 4 for 19 with 1 home run against Carpenter. Cardinal pitching really has done a pretty good job all season long of handling Braun and Fielder. He's 0 for 1 tonight. Came in batting .224 on the season against Cardinal pitching.
Fly ball into center. Jay broke back. Now he makes the catch. 2 outs. So runner at second base, 2 down, and here is Fielder. Walk Prince with first base open, and McGee, they'll deal with him. He's on deck. Again, we had a tribute to Pablo Demitra, and you see Carpenter on the mound. Huge hockey fan. I believe he'll be a season ticket holder for the Blues this upcoming season. But our thoughts and prayers with the Demitra family, and Al, I covered him when he was in St. Louis. Terrific teammate, one of the leaders on the team, and an all-around very good person. So very, very sad news. If you didn't hear it, he was playing in Russia for a Russian team, and a private Russian jet carrying the players on his team crashed after taking off, and over 40 people were killed. Some former NHLers, including some coaches as well, but most notably Pablo Demitra, which hits home here in St. Louis.
A very sad story, and they were flying off for their season opener.
A strike at the knees to McGee. Carsoup.com/Cardinals to email the booth.
Carpenter has command of that curveball that has kind of left him the last couple starts. Get ahead curveball. Got the great cutter. Good velocity on the fastball.
There it is again. 0-2. McGee shaking his head.
On the last couple of starts, you know, that was a pitch that a couple times, you know, about 3 starts ago, his cutter was so good he really abandoned the curveball. And it looks like he's got both of them working here tonight.
Runners at first and second.
There's the cutter. Brian Anderson play-by-play man from Milwaukee. You know, he's experimenting with a new app on the computer, and he showed it to me. There's an outstanding pitch, and McGee just got tossed.
This is strikeout number 1. McGee didn't like that. You can see from his reaction, and then moments ago.
That one was a little wider, but the first one looked like it was a strike, and his emotions got him thrown out of the game. So Green moves from second base to third base, and then the veteran Milwaukee native Craig Counsell goes in to play second.
Small as strike zones are now, I could see why he would have a beef. Here's Lance Berkman.
Why are they so small?
That's a fair ball inside the first base line. Off the sidewall, and Berkman winds up with a stand-up double to start the bottom of the 4th.
Lance turns on that ball in the inner part of the plate. He is now 6 for 18 and a 3-game hitting streak on this homestand. Just give you an idea how much fun he has with his teammates.
Schumacher with the third baseman. Green now playing in. Slow breaking ball and a strike at 71 miles an hour.
Saw earlier he threw one that was in the 60s. And they have a little competition amongst their starters. Who can throw the slowest curveball?
Bunting. It's a good one. Greinke underhands and gets Schumacher by a step. Sacrifice good. 1-3 on the play, and let's go back to the Berkman double.
Let's see. Hyundai is going to show us that he gets jammed ever so slightly, but he really pulls the hands through the zone and pulls it right inside the first base bag for an extra base hit. And now he's in scoring position at third for Molina.
Runner on third, less than 2 outs. Runner has scored 11 out of 20 times. We've got Molina here and then Descalso on deck. Yachty first time up, struck out. That was back in the second, and the only strikeout tonight for Zach Greinke. Molina actually has better numbers in this spot than Albert Pujols, which is hard to believe.
Tony's always considered him to be one of the finest RBI men on the team.
There's a fly ball, shallow right. That's Berkman at third. Hart makes the catch. They're going to test him. Throw to the plate. He is safe. No slide and in there safely.
Dan, you really have to hit a ball about 300 feet. But I thought with Corey Hart and his reputation, throw a little bit offline, and that allowed Berkman to get across the plate standing up. See what he sees, so he's kind of concentrating on the inside part of the plate. But almost every time, if you challenge the defense, even here at the big league level, you're going to win. I don't think Corey Hart believes it.
2 down, Descalso. Inning started with a double by Berkman. Sacrifice by Schumacher. Sac fly, RBI for Molina, his 53rd of the year. Now the 8th place hitter, Daniel Descalso. Hits it the other way. Base hit for Daniel. Second hit in this inning for the Redbirds.
Threw that slow breaking ball to him, and the ball just hung up for him.
This Saturday, fans ages 15 and under receive a collectible Cardinals pennant, courtesy of Coke and the Pasta House. It's for the young fans. Cardinals.com for tickets. At least you get Carpenter through the lineup with that base hit by Descalso. Chris fly to right first time up. One ball, one strike. Seeing Carpenter swing the bat really well here in the second half.
He is by his own call, he is the most hitterish. But I think since Edward Jackson's come on board, he's the best hitter. You can just look down the third baseline. There was a slider that a lot of times he'll get you to chase. Loesch and Carpenter kind of in the battle, but isn't it funny that Westbrook, with one swing of the bat, doubled his RBI output, and he's number 2 in the National League by a pitcher now with 8.
Pulls it foul.
I think Westbrook would be the first to tell you that I walked into one when he hit the grand slam in Milwaukee.
A check swing, and he went. Strikeout of Chris Carpenter, but the Cardinals grab a lead. The sac fly by Molina. 1-0. Cy Young Award as a Brewer.
You know this one.
Pete Vukovich, 1982.
Played with the Cardinals also, and he was the big slugging first baseman in Major League.
That's right. The movie. Happy
birthday. Happy 49th birthday to Jeff McCoy.
I would assume Bob Uecker had a little influence on that.
I think so.
Harry Doyle. Good to see Bob is feeling good and healthy.
Like I told him in Milwaukee, and I told him again last night, don't get old.
Popped up left side. Descalso, and Green is retired. Congratulations to a very good friend of ours, Dan Kaplan. He is the general manager, and there's Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball, Mr. Belvedere, Harry Doyle.
Yeah.
But Dan Kaplan runs the Westin Hotel just across the street, and he also is very much involved with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Throughout the first pitch on their behalf tonight, and just by his single efforts, he's raised over $50,000 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So congratulations to Dan, and great work. I know he's worked very, very hard on that.
Good friend of both of ours, and said he got to meet that little poster child. A little 3-year-old with quite a personality.
Carter. They're yelling from the dugout, obviously. No balls and 2 strikes with 1 out, nobody on. Carter is the young man's name, and he's sitting in Big Mac land tonight with his father. 0-2 pitch to Betancourt. Swing and a miss. Strikeout.
4 strikeout to go along with all those pop-ups, just indicating the great movement Carpenter has. And you know, you can argue from the bench on the one swing, but when your batter swings at a ball in the dirt, not much the umpire can say, but you're out.
Jonathan Lucroy popped out to Pujols his first time up.
Atlanta is now taking a 2-1 lead and still batting in the top of the 7th inning at Philadelphia.
Broken bat, ground ball to short. For Kyle up with it, and he makes the play. Top of the lineup for Kyle. Jay and Pujols coming up.
One of the things that Rafael Furcal said, I can't wait to go to a World Series. One of the reasons why, he felt like he would be very receptive to staying here in St. Louis.
Tony was telling me that's the first thing that Furcal said to him. Got to town, he said, Tony, I haven't been to a World Series. It's what I want to do, and that's why I'm here. Bottom of the 5th. And Furcal hits it a ton out to deep right. This ball is gone. That's a home run. Rafael Furcal with his 7th home run.
And that's his 4th home run against Milwaukee. Had 2 leadoff home runs and 4 total against Milwaukee. But that's what excites you. You know he still can play great defense, but if he can become anything like he was as an offensive player, in his prime, he was one of the most exciting players in the game.
Rafael Furcal safe at home, safe and secure. New York life. How about this? John Jay fights it off for a base hit out to left, and he's 3 for 3. So Furcal again, safe at home, safe and secure. New York life.
Cardinals already with 8 hits compared to Milwaukee's 2. They lead 2-0.
Now it's Pujols. Pitch inside. Albert 1 for 2 tonight. Base hit to right center. 357 feet. Distance of the home run by Furcal. Ground ball hit to third. Double play ball out at second and out at first as Jay went in hard. Good turn by Counsell, who's coming to this game midway through after the ejection of Casey McGee. Swing and a miss by Holiday. One ball, one strike.
And when the old days, pretty much a scouting report would be up and in, down and away. It really wasn't much more tricky than that, or a guy's a first ball fastball hitter. And I was saying that Brian Anderson is experimenting with a new app that they have, and we may be using this for next season. But it was so extensive to where you could go back and show every at bat and show where pitches are, the pitching tendencies. And I was watching Greinke against Holiday, and then I asked Brian to call the manufacturer and say, what is the batting average for a right-handed batter, down and in and up and in? And like I suspected, it was 50 points difference, 50 points higher down and in versus up and in, and it was even more extreme for a left-handed batter.
You have to wonder after that last pitch if our home plate umpire is hearing it. Greinke thought he had a called third strike and looked back into the dugout. Holiday, shallow right, and Hart makes the catch. And Greinke having a conversation with the home plate umpire. Top of the sixth, Carpenter has been very sharp. Zach Greinke leads it off. Carpenter's allowed 2 base hits. Deep in the hole for a Kyle. Long throw. Bounce to Pujols for the outs.
Nice play at both ends, but almost throwing a turf throw. So far out in front that Albert will get a true hop. And Greinke, pretty good athlete. He can field his position, swings the bat a little bit, and he had to run hard on that one, thinking he might have a base hit.
Mentioned that Greinke was visiting with the home plate umpire when he walked off the mound. I'm sure it was about that pitch that we talked about to make it 3-2 or 3-2, the count on Matt Holliday.
And our umpire kind of walked out a little bit, probably said something to him, but then it's the responsibility of Greinke to defuse the issue. Yeah, shouldn't have looked in the dugout. Kind of was showing you up a little bit. But, he's sitting there going, hey, Carpenter getting that pitch. I'm not.
Fly ball into left. Matt Holliday under it. 2 down. Push Pashes every Friday home game in the Ford Plaza. And this Friday, Brian Jordan. For details and future player appearances, visit Cardinals.com/promotions. Brings in Nyjer Morgan, who doubled back in the 4th. Very efficient tonight, Al.
That's right. Only 59 pitches. Really had trouble in 1 inning, the 4th. And he went to 20 pitches. Gave up a double and an intentional walk. And 2 strikeouts.
Fox Track, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you there. Brought to you by Chevy. Dan is going so quickly, we got to get everything in.
Dan, we worked together too long. You don't have to say sorry to me.
Oh, I feel bad, Al, when I talk over you. I don't want to do that.
This is our last game together this year, and I'm going to miss you, partner.
It is our last game. You've got you and Rick down the stretch for a good portion of those. I'll be with Rick in Pittsburgh next week, and then you'll join us in Philly.
Really?
It's always fun. It's especially fun when they win.
That's
so maybe
what I always say.
You and Rick can get them to win a little bit. It's a walk to Nyjer Morgan.
Second walk overall, the first unintentional.
Don't talk, Al. Follow the Cardinals with MLB.com @bat11. I've got to get this one in. You ready? Text 31826 @bat or visit Cardinals.com for details. Now go ahead and talk.
Thank you. Don't have anything to say.
Here's Braun, who is 0 for 2. He's grounded out to short and fly to center. Outfield is deep and straight away. See guys like Pujols, Holiday for the most part in his career, Fielder and Braun, you don't see them change their stance or their approach.
And the only real superstar that I know of that constantly changes batting stance was Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah, and that was on an at-bat to basis. They would change in the game all the time. I had a chance to visit with him. He said there were times inside the at-bat, if he had a uncomfortable swing, he would change his stance in the at-bat.
And most good hitters, like you say, will just believe in what they're doing and stick with it.
1-1 pitch to Braun. Here it comes. Hit into center. Morgan, his good speed, on his way to third. Runners at the corners with 2 down. What's on Tap is brought to you by Budweiser. And Friday night, Jaime Garcia gets the call for St. Louis. Very important series against the Atlanta Braves. At least we hope it is. Atlanta's jumped out to a 2-1 lead. Top of the 8th over the Phillies. So Garcia goes 6:30 on Friday night, and that's presented by Budweiser. What's on tap?
He was well rested before his last start and pitched well and won.
Prince Fielder with runners at first and third. Last time up, an intentional walk. And he singled in the second. Started all 144 this season. And he has been durable.
See the bottom of that note where he only missed one game in the last 3 years.
Speaking of Cal Ripken.
Yeah. And then Ryan Braun would be much the same, but he had an injury that cost a couple weeks. But they pretty much have a roster where they can put the same 9 out, or same starting 8 out virtually every day.
Here's a 1-0. Cardinals have out-hit Milwaukee tonight 8-3. They lead it 2-0. Carpenter has been sharp. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Where will Prince Fielder be playing next year?
Fielder with a fly ball right center. Can somebody get there? Jay is over. Makes the catch. Saves a run. Outstanding play from John Jay in right center field. Scored back in the 4th. Now entering play tonight, only 2 of the 8 playoff races involved a gap of fewer than 7 games. And that's one of the reasons why Bud Selig has approached the Players Association about adding a second wild card. A little bit more excitement down the stretch. Also the talk of 15-team leagues, realignment.
You would have to do something in order to make that effective.
Talking maybe as soon as next year if they could get it done quickly.
I heard that at the last owners meeting that they were cool to that idea for next year.
So maybe 2 years, if at all.
And I don't know why the reasoning, because I think everyone would like it.
Council stays with it and makes the play. Well, you really never get sick of watching this. Flashback, Cardinals hard-hitting Mark Whiten. It's Mike Anderson, the starter for the Reds. He's the brother, by the way, of Brian Anderson, who's the play-by-play voice of the Brewers. 4 home runs in the nightcap of a doubleheader. End of the day with 16 total bases, 5 runs, 13 RBIs. Jack Buck on this one said, what a blast that is, and what a blast that was.
And I was doing that game, and you know, you saw the stands. There was virtually nobody in it. It was the second game of that doubleheader, and there probably was 2,000 people left in the stands. But it was a special night, and all of hard-hitting Mark Whiten's teammates, they, you know, made a red carpet basically out of towels, white towels, leading from the dugout into his locker and showered him. It was very special, but in some ways, I think it almost ended his career.
A lot of people felt he, you know, started swinging for home runs.
Right. He tried to duplicate that night, you know, the rest of the way, and just really, you know, kind of messed himself up as a hitter. Mark had a tremendous throwing arm. You know, was noted as one of the best throwers in baseball, but then he never assumed anybody would run against him. And they started taking liberties against him, and then he would panic and throw the ball and wouldn't throw it away, or, you know, so even his great strength of his throwing arm became a negative.
This will send us to the 7th inning. Cardinals go in order. St. Louis on top, 2-0. Craig Counsell first at bat of the ball game tonight. at second base after the ejection of McGee. They moved Taylor Green from second to third to replace McGee and Counsell into the game.
Counsell's been just a real good, solid ball player. 2 times was a starter on World Championships teams, once in Arizona, and before that Florida. But got off to a horrible start. Was 0 for 45. He's the franchise leader in pinch hit appearances and pinch hits, but 0 for 45, tying the major league record. It's like to go into August without a hit. But you know what? There's 2 other guys, including a former teammate of mine, Dave Campbell. The weird thing about Dave Campbell is in that 73 season, he played for 3 different teams. How do you trade for a guy that's
not hitting,
hitting an over?
Here's a 1-2. Counsell with a fly ball into center. And Jay is there. It's back-to-back starts. The Cardinals will have a starter go 6 or more innings without allowing an earned run. Loesch was the first to do it last night since July 4th.
You know, the Cardinals starters in the beginning of the season, you know, while you go back to spring training, they lose Adam Wainwright. We said you can never replace him. But it really did seem like they did replace him. It looked like the 5 starters, and they got off to a pretty solid start for about 3 months. But then they kind of maybe got a little overexposed. You've had these glimpses of where they'll have a nice little run, but it just didn't seem like you had the firepower to.
That's ripped into right, over to get it and track it down. Lance Berkman.
To go out there every single day and have that solid start by a starting pitcher.
Now some interesting numbers from that start with Loesch last night. First win against Milwaukee since 07. And at that time he was a member of the Reds. So he was winless in 9 starts, 10 appearances against the Brewers since joining the Cardinals. And what also is interesting, he's 13-2 with a 2.63 ERA when receiving 3 or more runs of support. 0-6, 2 or fewer runs.
Well, very few pitchers are going to win in that category, but that's what Cardinals seem like. They got to score about 6 runs to win. Good defense tonight.
Yeah, nice catch by Furcal. Takes a hit away from Betancourt. Time to stretch here at Busch. In history, Chris Carpenter tosses a 1-hit shutout to beat the Brewers 3-0. That was September 7th of 2009. And that would be a postseason year for the Cardinals. That's brought to you by Schnucks.
And one final thought about starting pitching. Ball club is averaging 4.7 runs per game. And your ERA is like 3.8. So it's really hard to be much more than 500.
Descalso takes a pitch up and in. Cardinals starting play tonight at 75 and 67. Milwaukee 85 and 58. Phillies have tied up their ball game 2-2 against Atlanta in the bottom of the 8th. Descalso with an opposite field single back in the 4th, and he's also grounded out to second.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but the Cardinals are closer to 3rd place than they are to the wild card or to the division lead.
It out of play. 2 balls, 1 strike.
And you know, that is very important to Tony La Russa, no matter what happens, but to finish ahead of Cincinnati.
Been a good year for Daniel Descalso. First full year in the major leagues. And he's a guy that really, when you watch him swing, doesn't get cheated, does he?
No, he doesn't. You know, that was a big swing right there. Currently batting .260.
Hits it in the air to right center. Niger Morgan over and makes the catch. Brings in Carpenter. Carsoup.com. Email the booth question. Tim in New Jersey, what pitches, if any, are affected by changes in temperature or humidity? What do you think about the curveball in Colorado?
Yeah, but that's more like altitude. You know, it's just maybe in a real humid day, you really have to guard against ball slipping out of your hands.
I think better put would be how the ball travels.
Right.
More so than how it affects a pitcher.
Yeah, it seems like the hotter it is, the more humid, the further it's going to travel.
Carpenter pops it up. Lucroy will give it a look. Out of play.
Cold weather, you know, once a pitcher gets loose, he's comfortable, but hitters fear being jammed and sting of the bat. So you pitch inside. Obviously, when you're cold, you're not as loose.
Well, I think for a pitcher, though, Al, obviously you would know better than most, but when it's cold, you always hear guys talk about the grip of a baseball and how tough it is for them to find the seams and get a good release point, especially with breaking balls.
Comes a little more slick, you know, because
Carpenter hits it down the left field line. It's hooking, foul.
Carpenter has 2 career home runs. One's a grand slam, and Loesch got a little scared right there. So they've got a little contest going. Who will have the higher batting average? That goes back to the beginning of the season. Loesch batting 140. And Carpenter's, he's down to about 149.
Third strikeout for Zach Greinke, and it brings in for Kyle, who's had a nice ball game. And you mentioned it, Al. Defense has been a big part of what's taken place tonight.
And Carpenter, who's not always gotten the best support behind him, has gotten plenty of it tonight. That's why we're seeing the pitching gem that he's throwing. One of the reasons.
And a strike 2 for Kyle.
How about last night?
And how about earlier? 5th inning and a home run for Raphael.
7th home run, but 4th one against the Milwaukee Brewers. Last night he did what I call the old Matty Alou, where he just kind of punched the ball over the infield for a base hit. And the next time he kind of like took a couple steps running and just hit the ball the opposite field for another hit.
And a nice play in the hole on Zach Greinke earlier tonight. Also, the line drive by Betancourt to his left made a good play. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Raphael Furcal. And he strikes out. So back-to-back Ks. And we head to the 8th inning. Cardinals on top, 2-0. Life-size poster. And the Cardinals, for the all-inclusive areas, which include flat-screen TVs, want to make it known that they have reduced the ticket prices for the Champions Club, Legends Club. So if you're a football fan but enjoy baseball as well, best of both worlds. Rams game will be on, and you can watch from the ballpark the Cardinals. Mark Kotze is on deck, and this is Lucroy.
Troy Hawkins warming up.
Another fly ball, and this is Berkman, 1 away.
Carpenter's only thrown 77 pitches through 7 1/3 innings.
12 fly ball outs.
But they're not, you know, they're not like at the wall like we saw a couple last night. These balls are, you know, just routine fly balls that are being caught. A lot of pop-ups.
Saw last night Jason Mott allowed an earned run for the first time in 26 2/3 innings as the Troy Hawkins is getting loose. Also snapped a 33-game streak in which he did not allow an earned run.
Start a new one.
1 ball, 1 strike on Kotze. Well, it's a telling stat. Dan Hyatt, who's part of our research team at Fox Sports Midwest, did a great job looking at just what if the save percentage was that of Axford, which is close to 95%. Where would the Cardinals be in? Again, it's just having a little fun with the numbers, but about a 20-game swing.
20-game swing, and the Cardinals would have already 95 wins and the best record in baseball.
Past Schumacher and into center field. Kotze is aboard. Tying run comes to the plate. And the 4th hit of the night for Milwaukee.
Schumacher trying to go to his right. Never gets in front of that ball. So Hyundai brings you that action.
So that's it for Zach Greinke with his 7 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs. Struck out 4, 1 hit, 1 sacrifice, only 87 pitches tonight. 1 out, short lead at first, and Hart hits it sharply to short. Out at second. It's a double play. 6-4-3 on the double play. Big bats, Jay, Pujols, Holiday coming up. And our Fox Sports Midwest crew, Jay, Pujols, Holiday, 2-0 St. Louis as we move to the bottom of the 8th. And the pitcher will be LaTroy Hawkins for the Milwaukee Brewers. Well-traveled LaTroy Hawkins. And this call to the bullpen is brought to you by Chevrolet. 46th appearance, 2.57 ERA. It's all said and done. You look at his career, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and last season was just limited to 18 games in his first season with the Brewers after a pair of stints on the disabled list. End up having right shoulder surgery, missed the first 18 games of the season, but through his history he has been an outstanding setup man. A couple times clubs have tried him as a closer and that didn't go so well, but he's been recognized as one of the best setup men in the game, and the back end of their bullpen is very, very deep.
And there is a strike to John Jay.
What about John Jay? 3 for 3 tonight. John Jay is appearing in a team high 140th game.
And he shoots one foul and out of play. No balls and 2 strikes. 38,891 tonight. 3-8-891. Another big crowd here at Busch Stadium. About the work that the club was with dynamic pricing and trying to make it as affordable as they can for the fans in all various areas of the seating this year. First year of dynamic pricing. 1-2 pitch in the air to center, and Niger Morgan will make the catch and then looks back at the fans. Preview of Sunday's season opener debuts Friday at 6. Rams Nation on Fox Sports Midwest.
Troy Hawkins now 38 years of age. He'll be 39 until December.
One out, nobody on. Here's Pujols. Bounced into a 5-4-3 double play. He singled into third and is also flied out to left. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Pujols rips it to third and off the glove of Green and into left field. A 2-hit night for Albert. So base hit for Pujols. And NL Central postseason record 2006 54-42, and since then 1-15. Reds were swept last year. Cardinals year before that. The one win, 08 Brewers. One win against the Phillies. 07 was Chicago. One out, runner at first, and here's Matt Holliday. Very interesting to see that and how it measures up to the rest of the league. Just the one win in postseason play since 06. Before that, Cardinals in Houston. It appeared in World Series.
Understand the Cardinals haven't won a game since the 06. They were swept by the Dodgers in their lone appearance that 09.
04, 05, 06. Saw a team from the National League Central in the World Series. 04 Cardinals in Boston. 05 Houston swept by the White Sox in the World Series, and then the Cardinals with the win over Detroit in 06. Oh, 2 pitch to Matt Holliday. Outfield is deep. 1-2.
Troy with a 2.55 ERA in those 45 previous games, but I'm sure next season, if he's lucky enough to catch on to somebody, that shoulder will be that much stronger. He comes to that set position with, it looks like his glove, you know, almost at the hip position, but he really hides the ball well to the hitter. Watch when he comes set. He kind of turns that back a little bit to the hitter, and then he holds it all the way back there.
Holliday hits it down the right field line, but foul.
He'll throw 93, 94 miles an hour. And the young man got that ball all by himself.
That's not the one that was sleeping last night.
No, or he aged overnight. Now they're a little blondie, though. He was pretty proud of himself. I wonder if the parents of our sleeper had a lot of phone calls today.
I would assume. We showed him multiple times throughout the broadcast. Never was awake. By the way, I talked to Barrett Jackman the other day, Al, about Nyjer Morgan.
Yes.
And those two I mentioned before played junior hockey. Well, Barrett tells me he was a fantastic teammate and loved being around him.
Did he have all of his personalities then?
He did not say. So he was just a real good person, good guy, and enjoyed his time playing hockey with him.
I was told that they have a sponsored element of their broadcast. It's like a high energy, and they have one for the year, and Nyjer's winning that. 41% of all votes have gone to Nyjer Morgan. The high energy. Looked like he was falling asleep.
messing with the fans as Holiday hits it out of play. I saw earlier a series in San Francisco, and we just saw moments ago he made that catch off the bat of John Jay and then looked at the fans, kind of taunted them, and he said he loves it. He said he loves going back and forth with the fans. He did it a lot in San Francisco. We know about their fans. They'll get after you a little bit too.
Sometimes our San Francisco fans have the reputation of being some of the cleverest in what they tell you.
One-two pitch. Holiday, a swing and a miss. First strikeout for LaTroy Hawkins. And it brings in Berkman. Lance Berkman tonight has grounded out, doubled and scored, and grounded out to second.
You think Barrett maybe is a little happy that he didn't pick hockey?
Talking about Morgan?
Yeah. Niger, chose baseball, and maybe Barrett owes his career to that move.
You never know. I would assume that if Barrett was here, we wouldn't say that to him because we'd probably be thrown physically out of the booth. He's pretty tough guy, but he did say he enjoyed his time with Niger Morgan.
Why are you sugarcoating this now?
Just the way it is, Al. Just reporting what the digging I do.
You tell Barrett where you live.
That's ripped into right center field. Morgan on the move. He won't get it. Pops off the wall. Pujols to third. Pujols being waved in. Relay to the plate. He is out at the plate. It took a chance and didn't pay off. Executed perfectly by Milwaukee as Tony La Russa out to visit with the home plate umpire.
Watch the foot. He's out.
Chris Carpenter trying to finish what he started as we go back to the booth and Dan and Al.
This pitch hit down the right field line. He turned on it, and it is foul. Home run distance, but foul for Niger Morgan.
Carpenter's been outstanding tonight. Scattered 4 hits. He's had great defense behind him. They've turned a couple double plays. Isn't it nice to see what it looks like?
The other way, yeah.
The other way when there you see only 84 pitches. Very economical.
He's going to have to earn it here in the ninth with his second place hitter Morgan and then Braun and Fielder.
Niger must be sitting on a fastball as he took that curveball right down the middle, but a good one. Atlanta Braves just lost. Come for Hine in the bottom of the ninth inning by Philly. Ross Glode, excellent pinch hitter, must have delivered the game winner. Cincinnati's locked up 3-3 with the Cubs. And Chicago batting in the bottom of the 7th.
So that would mean if the Cardinals hold on, they'd be 6.5 back of the Atlanta Braves with 3 coming up this weekend against Atlanta.
8.5 back behind Milwaukee. For those of you that want to keep track of that.
In on his hands, he is sharp.
Yeah, good pitch right there. 94 miles an hour, still strong. In on the hands of a left-handed batter. Like to get it right at the hands or even a bit above, tying them up. Backdoor cutter.
1-2.
Was outside, but crowd wanted that one.
Breaking ball reached for and foul.
Good at bat here by Niger.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. 2-2. Cardinals have hit Milwaukee 10-4 in this ball game. They've stranded 6, Milwaukee 4. 2-run lead for St. Louis here in the top of the ninth. Spoiled again by Morgan.
Carpenter's walked 2, 1 intentionally. And had many deep counts.
Tenth pitch of the at-bat upcoming.
Fastball away.
The 2-2. Morgan, a swing and a miss. Strikeout for Carpenter, 95 miles an hour. After Morgan struck out, he had a dip in his mouth. He took that out, and it looked like he threw it in the direction of Carpenter and the mound and was saying something. And at that point, the home plate umpire saw it. Molina was watching as well, and that's when he saw both these benches clear and the bullpens as well.
Didn't take much, did it? Umpires are getting together right now.
Watch this. He strikes out. Now watch what he does.
Got the dip. Says something 2 or 3 times. Oh,
and Carpenter hadn't said anything to him. He turned around.
Now we're so used to seeing Carpenter, get upset, and in this case, he definitely had the right to do so. That's just flat out wrong. Good at bat, struck him out legitimately. And then you don't do that.
Now at that point in time, it looked like Carpenter had not said anything.
I don't think Carpenter really left the mound until after everything was pretty much done. He's intent on finishing this game and not going to do anything to jeopardize his position. The umpires are getting together now, and there will be some ejections, and Morgan's got to be the first. They just threw him out. Why? He wants to know why. Okay. Maybe it was T. Plush that did it. One out here in the ninth. I'm sure they'll issue a warning, but there's been.
I'm telling you, I think Carpenter just turned his back, and in that replay, you saw him immediately scream at Carpenter. Watch this.
Yeah, look at Carpenter.
Head down, doesn't say anything.
He's not saying anything. He's getting the ball with. They throw it around the horn. He's probably oblivious to it all. And then he kind of reacts a little bit to Albert running by him.
That's bad.
Well, that's more like the Nigel Morgan we've seen in the past. He's been a model citizen, but that's some of the stuff that he did when he was with Washington that got him public enemy #1 with a lot of National League teams.
Remember Jim Riggleman, after he hit Brian Anderson, he even said, my guy was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was no defense for it. Hit young Cardinal prospect Brian Anderson when there was no play at the plate, ran into him, threw an elbow at him, for no reason at all.
So 1 out.
Now both teams are being warned. They kind of forgot that. And of course the Cardinal fans are saying, why our guys?
One out, nobody on here in the ninth, and here's Braun.
Carpenter pitching one of the best games of the season, trying to even his record at 9-9. He's had a couple clunkers in there, but boy, he's pitched much better than that 9-9 Should have many more wins. Cutter.
Off the end of the bat. Carpenter fields it. And he makes the play. 2 down.
Happy birthday to Bob Young, one of our gate supervisors here at the ballpark. Happy birthday, Bob.
On their feet here at Busch Stadium. Fielder, the final hope for Milwaukee. Player of the game, Chris Carpenter. 8+, 4 hits, no runs.
Standing effort, 95 pitches.
There's a fly ball, deep left. Holiday with room. He's got it. The Cardinals win it. Carpenter goes the distance. 2-0 shutout over Milwaukee.
His third complete game, his first shutout of the season. Great all-around game. Good defensive, great pitching by Carpenter, and just enough timely hitting.
On to the postgame show we go. What a night for Carpenter. 2-0 our final.